Good evening. From the Hurricane Watch team, it is Tuesday, June 10th, 2025, and we're tracking two areas of interest in the Western Pacific. First, we're going to start off by talking about Tropical Cyclone One, and then we'll talk about Invest 94W, both of which could have impacts on parts of the West Pacific later this week. So, this is the first storm that we're going to talk about right here. These two storms, Tropical Storm Cosme and Barbara, are rapidly dissipating and quickly falling apart over the East Pacific Ocean. Tropical Cyclone One, 30 knots, air pressure 996 millibars, located at 15.2 degrees north, 114.3 degrees east. Here is the latest forecast track from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. They are now expecting that on the 12th, that we could potentially at 1800 UTC see this reach typhoon status at 65 knots, 75 miles per hour. And then here we have, I'm going to move over to Tropical Depression 1. Here it is. It is currently there in very warm sea surface temperatures. We're talking 29 to 30 degrees Celsius. Very warm sea surface temperatures. These sea surface temperatures are only going to warm up as it gets closer to land. And the average is about, I would say, about 100 joules per square centimeter. 100 kilojoules. So about 100,000 joules per square centimeter. So very warm sea surface temperatures. Sea surface temperatures are actually running. The closer you get towards the mainland China, the warmer the sea surface temperatures were running, around half a degree to about a degree above average. Taking a look at the anomalies for the TCHP is pretty well above average in the South China Sea. And currently where this specific storm is currently located, we are looking at, again, the average TCHP in this area, in the box, is about 72,000 joules per square centimeter. 26 degree isotherm goes down to a depth of about 50 meters. So we do have pretty warm waters that go down to a depth. As we go into hurricane season, you'll notice this, where this line is at, will be farther and farther down, maybe as far down as 120 meters. I don't think there's much satellite. There's not much radar, but again, this will be much easier to see when we get into hurricane season or for the North Atlantic. All right, I do want to talk a little bit about the forecast models and what the forecast models are saying for this tropical depression in the West Pacific Ocean. So again, here is the H-wharf. Again, not very organized. And again, at the same time, it doesn't have a lot of time to rapidly intensify. So the good news that's going to come out of this system is it won't have time. It's not going across the West Pacific and going into the Philippines. You know, we're not seeing a system like that with Haiyan, like we did with Haiyan in 2013, where it had a lot more distance it had to go over and it had all this warm water. It doesn't have a lot of that. So the good news is, even if it were to rapidly intensify, it really would not be able to be super duper strong. Now, we do think this could become a typhoon, so we do expect those winds to be above 65 knots. Now, this one particular model does seem a little bit more on the aggressive side, nearing there at 80 knots, almost 962 millibars. There you can see as it moves back over the South China Sea. It's relatively weak, not super duper strong, at around 70 miles an hour again, there at landfall again. So as we go back here, you can see it's going to take a little bit. Then once it really ramps up, we do think it will be a hurricane before making landfall. Excuse me, a typhoon. We do like to look at all these models here. And again, a majority these are showing relatively the same here. This one's showing 72 knots upon landfall. Around, again, once this model doesn't really kind of show that it slows down, we're really going to have to watch all these models particularly and get a better idea of how strong this is going to be. Now, if it goes more of the western track of the island, it won't make landfall, and we could see a more intense system. If it goes farther towards the east, it may make landfall, and it won't be as strong, which is what we're looking for, which is what we would want. We wouldn't want it to be as strong. But then once it gets past that, before it makes landfall, China does appear that it does unfortunately weaken, isn't as strong. All right, those are the main models I want to look at. Another model that gives us a good idea of where this is going to go, have a better idea of location. If I can go to the West Pacific here, it would be this model. This model is pretty good in terms of determining, where these storms will go. So again, here it is. This morning, 7 a.m. this morning at 0 hours. There it was. So it is trying to pick up on some high pressure out here, pushing it farther to the west. Again, it does show it does just make landfall there. And if it does make landfall, it would be overall weaker as it goes into China, which is what we want. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about Invest 94W. It is coming onto radar now. They are watching it. There's a lot more model guidance with this. It does not seem like it's to be super duper powerful. Again, we're going to go look in the models and see what all that we have with the system. However, northern Philippines need to watch out. Taiwan, mainland China, South Korea, and Japan. Again, take a look at these forecast models. We go, once again, we take a look at the West Pacific. Here's this system. It's somewhere out in the vicinity off the coast of the Philippines. There it is. It doesn't really develop into anything. And then just sort of gets absorbed into this trough right here, which would be a pretty good outcome. But then, again, you go farther into the models and you do get other systems that do try to develop. That's a very small and compact system. Very interesting that is popping up there. Usually systems in the Westpac are not that small. They're usually pretty big systems, but that's something interesting. Might just be a fluke in the modeling. But if we take a look at this model here, if we can get, we already have some sort of rotation. We have rotation with this system. It's already a tropical depression. It does show, it does intensify there, makes landfall. But this system here doesn't really, it ramps up there into China and then it just gets absorbed into this trough. So there's a pretty decent chance that could just happen. It could just get absorbed into the trough. There isn't a lot of strong guidance with it. There are quite a few models that are showing it, but there isn't a lot of intensification with that system. Take a look at it again. 94W here. These models aren't showing a lot. However, these models on this end do show, a lot of them do show it popping up, but not becoming relatively strong of anything concern. Here's the latest satellite imagery of Invest 94W. Lots of convection, but not a lot of organization at this time. With that being said, we'll go back to this system here. With that being said, we'll be watching Invest 94W very closely and see if it tries to develop into a tropical depression or something more. Now, as it approaches the region around Micronesia, now regardless of any kind of development, heavy rain and gusty winds are going to be possible over the next several days for those islands. So, to sum it all up, we have Tropical Cyclone One, which is expected to strengthen with possible impacts to Palau, the Philippines, later this week. With Invest 94W, it is still very disorganized. However, we could see some more organization and development with this system over time. Of course, here at the Hurricane Watch Team, we will keep you updated with our latest right here on the Hurricane Watch Team. Make sure you're subscribed if you aren't already, and turn on notifications so you don't miss critical updates as these systems evolve. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay informed, and peace out.